Welcome, everybody, to the latest live episode. We are so pumped and excited to have everyone here and listening, and for those present, able to even see this live. So super fun content to cover today. We're going to be talking about a sane and refreshing approach to pay off your debt and build wealth at the same time. That in and of itself has my attention. I don't know about everybody else, but we are going to be looking at something that may be a little counterintuitive to the average debt payer, the average debtor, because the average way to do things isn't working. We've been a nation of debtors now for over a generation, and the strategies and the approaches that we've been taught just doesn't seem to be working. We're moving in the wrong direction. So with that in mind, let's get into something we found to be a powerful and steady strategy for being debt-free and, in fact, being better than debt-free. How can you be better than debt-free, right? So that's what we're going to be covering together. I think you guys are going to love it. So, we've regularly heard people ask us the question. We'd love, hey, Mark, hey, Amanda, we would love to be able to save, but we've got all this debt. And we can't think about retirement. We can't think about saving. We can't think about building our assets while we have all this debt around our neck. And it's true. The average American is in debt up to their eyeballs. A third of their income, according to the U.S. Commerce Bureau, is being used to just service the debt alone. So many people think that before they begin saving, they've got to pay off all that debt first. But my question is, have you ever done the math on that? And I'm here to say nothing could be further from the truth. Time is the most important asset in your portfolio. Time is the most important asset in your portfolio. Every day that goes by that you're not building compound accumulating wealth is, and unfortunately, it's the nail in the coffin for your financial future. So what if you could be better than debt-free? Not just debt-free, but better than debt-free. First, let me talk about what many people have heard about or seen on the news or on the radio, a strategy that's fairly popular among radio hosts, something called the snowball method. We call it the Debt Snowball Method. How does the Debt Snowball Method work? Well, the first thing you do when you're following this particular way to be debt-free, you would list all of your debts from smallest to largest. Just put them all out on a sheet of paper or Excel sheet. Next, you make the minimum payment on all of your debts except the smallest one. And some people might dither with that and say the highest interest debt. But regardless, you lay them all out and you pay them off one at a time. And you throw your highest amount possible. Everything you don't need to spend on groceries and rent or mortgage goes toward the smallest debt or the highest percentage until that particular account is totally paid off. And then the snowball method says the next thing you should do is take the monthly payment you used to pay off the previous debt and use it as an additional payment toward the next debt in your list to be paid off. Following that, you keep only $1,000 in savings while you do all this. Okay, so that's generally the Dave Ramsey approach. Baby step number one in his baby step formula is to keep $1,000 in the bank, and then step two would be to throw all of your additional money toward your debt snowball until you're completely debt-free, meaning we only have $1,000 to rely on if we have an emergency. So my question is, what could possibly go wrong with this scenario? Now, here's where I'm going to go ahead and open it up to Brandon, Amanda. Have you guys in your work as financial professionals, have you seen anything go wrong with the snowball method? What's wrong with it?
I would say it went wrong in our own personal life where we were trying to do some of that idea, but then we had something happened that went wrong, that we had to account for, that could have put us back in debt anyway.
Yeah, and frankly, life happens, right? All the time, life is happening, and so many people try to get ahead and never are able to, because life happens. There are kids that get broken arms, cars that need repairs, homes that need things. Christmas ends up being more expensive than we think, all kinds of randomness to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what happens, right? We fall back down the debtor staircase. When we're trying to pay off that credit card and then the transmission blows, or we get that broken arm and we need that health insurance deductible of 10 grand covered, what do? We're back in debt. We fall down that cycle again. And what if we're successful with the Debt Snowball method? What's the best thing we can hope for, right? We're 4 years older and we're finally debt free, and we can call up that wonderful radio host and scream, "I'm debt free!" But what does debt free really mean? It means we're back at the starting line of the race. How many people celebrate when they're running a marathon just as they approach the starting line? That's not to be celebrated. That's when you're getting ready to run, right? And if you're 4 years late to the marathon, you lost the marathon. That's the basic approach, right? So the goal is start building wealth right now. Right now. That's so important. So is there a better way than the Debt Snowball method? What if you could be better than debt free? I want to yell that on the radio. I'm better than debt free. I'm ready. I think we could all start a show doing that, right? That'd be awesome. So what if there was a better way to be debt free? Let's talk about it. If there was, wouldn't you want to know about it? So we call it the Debt SnowBank Method. The Debt SnowBank Method. Okay. So using the SnowBank Method, we pay our premiums we pay our minimums on all of our debts, just like the Snowball Method. And simultaneously, we set up a bank on yourself type whole life policy and put any additional monthly amount that we can afford to pay from our budget toward a policy, a life insurance policy. So that's the essential nature of how this works. So this is a policy that's designed with the intention of building cash value to grow as fast as possible and minimize the expenses there are in the life insurance policy. So this is very different than the kind Dave Ramsey talks about. So this gives you immediate cash value in month one, in year one, and so on. It begins building and growing for your future right in the very first month, and you have significant cash value even in the first year. So as you put money into this high, early, modernized whole life policy, you're building up an asset that's gaining interest and dividends as well toward your future. And that's something for your retirement, yes, but it's also a tool you can use, a massive asset that you control and can use to even help you pay off your debt. So imagine, if you would in your mind for a moment, two piles of money. One pile of money is your total debt, which is slowly shrinking as you make your minimum payments. Okay. The other is your bank on yourself type whole life policy, which you're flooding with cash, everything above your bills, basically, going into a policy that's controlled and owned by you. So it's growing quickly. So one pile of money is shrinking slowly. The other is growing quickly. As your policy's value is equal to your debt, one of your debts, simply take a policy loan to pay off your debt. And now you're using your SnowBank to buy back your debt and become better than debt free. Now, I'll just go ahead and make the disclaimer. We're not literally talking about an actual bank here, right? We're simply learning to think like a banker. And the SnowBank is not a real bank. It's just a whole life policy. We're using the word bank like we would say like a snowbank or a food bank, a store of value, right? But in essence, you can become the banker and buy back your debt and keep yourself liquid while breaking free from your creditors. So with that big pile of policy value, that cash value, if you had the proverbial emergency, medical emergency, or lost your job, you now have this cash value you can use to help get you through that tough time. Not so with the Snowball method, which essentially keeps you with $1,000 in your emergency fund as you try to pay off all your debts. So this is the SnowBank method, but I thought I'd visualize it with you really quickly. with this infographic on your screen. And sorry for anyone listening only, but on the screen here is a nice short infographic, 5 steps to how to utilize the SnowBank method. First, again, start by listing all your debts that you owe, except your mortgage or other super high interest rate debts, which we can talk about, either by smallest balance for quick wins or smallest interest or highest interest rates to pay less to the bank. Then follow the steps below. Number 1, pay your minimums on all your debt. No changes there. We don't want you getting behind on your creditors or behind on your debts, right? Step 2, everything extra goes into that SnowBank. Use a bank on yourself type whole life policy and begin building wealth right away. Break away from the starting line of your life and start earning an asset for you right away. Step 3, use your policy to pay off the debt one at a time. When your whole life policy has enough cash value, just take a loan from the policy, pay off your debt. How is this better than just paying cash for the debt? Right? How is this better than just writing a check and paying off the debt the old-fashioned way? Well, the key nature of a whole life policy designed the bank on yourself way is that it keeps on growing even on the money you borrowed to pay off the debt, as if you had not taken the loan. And we're going to show this, literally show you the numbers as we go through our presentation today. I think you guys will love it. But this policy is a non-direct recognition life insurance policy, which allows for loans against the cash value. What that means in plain English is you get the full dividend. You get all the growth you would have received had you not borrowed against the policy. This is a way for your money to do 2 things at once: grow for your retirement and pay off your debt today. Awesome. The final step is once your policy loan is paid off to yourself, you can open up new policies with that freed up cash flow and build even more wealth, which we'll show that too, right? All that freed up money has to go somewhere. Let's put it into something that grows predictably for your future. So that is the SnowBank method. I wanted to go through a couple of the benefits and drawbacks, and then I'll turn the table over to Amanda to give us some ideas of what this actually looks like, right? So what are the benefits here? Again, we're talking about building wealth today. The most valuable dollars in your life are the ones in your pocket right now, because those are the ones that could earn the most interest for the rest of your lifetime. I'd rather $1 in my pocket today than $5 in my pocket when I'm 80, because all that money has an opportunity to grow if I have the money today versus $5 when I'm 80 years old, right? So building additional wealth in retirement is the biggest and most important thing, which we'll do the math on that here shortly. Over and against the snowball method, where we lose those years. We lose those crucial years of earning wealth as we do the snowball method and pay off the debt the old-fashioned way, the Dave Ramsey way. The second benefit we've been able to find is that the SnowBank method gives you an increased flexibility, significant flexibility while the debts are being paid. Because again, if we need to skip a few monthly minimum payments on our regular debts, whoops, we lost our job. We can't even make the minimum payments on our credit cards. What are our options? Oh, wait, we have a big pile of cash value that we can use to cover the minimum debts to our creditors while we get a new job. Okay. Similar to this, but a little bit different, is we also have a big liquid pile of cash in our life insurance policy in case of emergency during our marathon of paying off these debts. Okay, so again, with the snowball method, we're stuck with $1,000 or less in the bank. If you put more in that savings account, that means you're in debt for longer. So Dave Ramsey's trying to get you debt free faster by keeping your monthly or keeping your emergency fund at $1,000. But the unfortunate fallout of that recommendation is you only got $1,000 in the bank. And what kind of an emergency can you think of that might cost you more than $1,000? Most of them is my answer to that question. All right, so you control the repayment of loans to your own policy. Once you've bought back your debt, as we say, once you've bought back your debt from your creditors and your predators, now you have the control. You can raise or lower your repayment to anything you choose, or even skip some payments on that loan if you need to for a while. What are some of the downsides of the SnowBank, right? Nothing's free except the cheese on the end of a mousetrap. as I've been told. So what are the considerations? Well, it's going to take a little longer to be creditor debt free. There are some insurance costs. Even a bank on yourself type whole life policy, guys, has some insurance costs. So it's going to slow down the date when you are creditor debt free. So if that's all you care about, being debt free 4 months faster, then sorry, we're going to just have to use the snowball method. Okay, think about it in terms of short-term versus long-term thinking. How long do you need money in your lifetime? Well, all of my lifetime, I'm going to need money, right? When do I want my money growing the fastest? Probably in retirement, when I'm not earning it anymore, right? Okay, so that's the one downside. Insurance costs are going to slow down the date your creditors are paid off to some degree. Number two, there is medical underwriting that you have to go through. So if that's a concern, you don't have to be the insured on this life insurance policy that you use to pay off the creditors. So don't let age or health be an issue here. The third consideration, there's a policy loan to be paid back in the SnowBank method, and I'd recommend that we repay it over a reasonable period of time. Now, what is reasonable? Well, it depends on the size and the type of debt we're talking about. If you used your policy to pay off a credit card, maybe a year or two. If it was a mortgage, maybe 15, 20 years to repay your policy loan is reasonable. And the fourth consideration is this is a long-term funding strategy. So we recommend funding it for at least 7 years, the policy itself, right? So it's going to be a whole life policy that we would recommend you fund for several years. Unless you have a single premium policy, which we can talk more about, to help you pay off all this debt immediately, we would recommend you fund your policy for 7 years. We don't have the time today to talk about how you could use this with a single premium policy, but that might be fodder for another episode. So again, it did take years to get into this debt for most of us Americans. It's going to take time. It's going to take some discipline to be debt-free and build real wealth. So that's our quick synopsis of the prices and considerations and the benefits of the SnowBank method. Amanda, Brandon, do you guys have anything you'd add to that?
I think the one thing, kind of as a word of caution, is let's say someone did use the SnowBank method to get out of debt. There's still, whether you're paying debt off slowly with the snowball method, with the SnowBank, whichever method, there's still the danger of returning to old habits, returning to, getting back into debt from unexpected things or from just being lazy or whatever, things inside your control or outside of your control. The thing I like a lot about the SnowBank method is it helps you build up that muscle, that saving muscle, the budgeting, controlling your spending muscle as you take the time to do this. So then it's a lot harder to fall back into how you were before, the things that got you into the debt, at least for what's within your control. And so I often warn people, I'm about to show you something that's really powerful. And if you're ready for change, I'm willing to show it to you and we can talk about how to do it. But if you want to stay in overspending or, something like that, then don't stay away from this because it could put you in a worse place rather than a better place.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool like any power tool. You want to make sure you understand how to use it. Great stuff.
I would say I had a client that was actually on Dave Ramsey's show and did the whole I'm debt free thing.
She screamed, or he or she screamed and everything?
She screamed on the show, and then she's coming to me and saying, yeah, I was actually on there and there's some flaws there because I'm back in the situation.
In debt?
I'm no therapist. I don't know what was going on there, but I do know now we're trying to build wealth and take care of the debt. College, an emergency happened. I believe some emergencies happened that caused her to go backwards. So this is real. Yeah,
it's great. This gives you some rails on the road to success. If I'm going to be doing a difficult journey of paying off debt, I need some kind of protections, some insurance, maybe is the right word, to make sure that we not only get out of debt, but stay out of debt. Great stuff. So let's do a quick story, case study, and then we're going to get some real numbers with some spreadsheets. But the question a lot of folks ask me is, Mark, should I do the Debt Snowball method or the SnowBank method? So I want to help you think through this with a story with Mr. Sammy Snowbank and Mr. Sonny Snowball. Okay, they're both men, both age 35. They both have identical budgets and an identical list of debts. So the first part of this little case study is Sonny Snowball wants to follow the Dave Ramsey advice, the snowball, right? He dutifully pays down his debts. When Sonny Snowball looks at his budget, he has $2,000 that he can put toward the debt and any savings. So when taking a look at his debt, he totals all his debts up, and Sonny Snowball has $30,000 in student loan debt at 6.8%. At $345 a month, he has to pay $77 toward a credit card, which has a $5,000 balance. His second credit card, he has to pay $124 a month, since that balance is slightly larger at $8,000. And in addition, he also has $4,000 in medical bills with 0% interest at $83 a month to pay back over 4 years. All right, so that leaves Sonny Snowball with approximately $1,371 a month from his original $2,000 to put somewhere, right? To put either towards saving or with the Debt Snowball, adding that extra $1,371 toward his smallest balance of debt. So if Sonny Snowball follows the snowball method, he'll pay off his medical debt in 3 months. And it's weird that he would do that since it's a zero interest loan, but let's put that aside for a minute. So he's now debt free from the medical debt and in just a few months, right? So that's great. His next step then is to tackle his credit cards until those are gone, and then finally his student loan. Altogether, it would take Sonny Snowball 26 months, keep that number in mind, 26 months to pay off all 4 debts. And he'd have to pay approximately $4,600 of interest over that period of time. Now, let's just assume that life happens, right? Because it does. Let's say over somewhere in that period of 26 months, Sonny has an emergency that cost him $5,000. Maybe it was a trip to the emergency room, and he had to come up with some extra cash since he was following, he has a high deductible health insurance plan. He'd only have about $1,000 in his emergency fund to cover that deductible, so Sonny Snowball will have to fall back down the debt staircase. So now how motivated is Sonny Snowball to keep tackling the debt when he's falling back down that rabbit hole, right? Wouldn't that add time? Wouldn't that add complications at the end and even more delays to saving if he had that one emergency, right? And how many of us have something unexpected that happens over a 2-year period? Somebody's got that unexpected wedding anniversary or that job loss or whatever, right? But for simplicity's sake, we won't even include that emergency in our numbers today. But it's really important to remember that that's likely going to happen and does happen to millions of people who try to follow Dave Ramsey's advice. Okay, so after he's debt-free, he finally starts putting money into his bank on yourself type policy. Now, that is also a little counterintuitive. Dave Ramsey would say throw it in the mutual funds, track the stock market. But bottom line is we're trying to keep everything nice and steady here so we can show simple rate of returns for everybody and just compare apples to apples. So Sonny Snowball is going to start a policy, a bank on yourself design policy, but he's going to wait until he's totally debt-free. Okay, part 2, Sammy Snowbank. Now, let's say that instead of following Dave's snowball method, Sammy Snowbank follows the SnowBank method. Sammy Snowbank has the same $2,000 to put toward his debt, and he has, the remaining debts, right? And so he's got the remaining $1,371 to put somewhere, and instead of putting it on his smallest debt like the snowball method would tell you to do, Sammy Snowbank puts it away into a high cash value bank on yourself type whole life policy. So now he's packing money into that whole life policy, and every time Sammy Snowbank's cash value grows to reach a certain level, the amount of his debt, he takes a loan against his policy, wipes out the debt with a policy loan. Super easy, right? Sammy pays that medical debt in the first few months, just like the snowball method. It was small enough to get that quick psychological win. Sammy Snowbank would also have the first of his 2 credit cards paid off by the first year. Because of the insurance cost of the policy, however, Sammy Snowbank would take 35 months to be debt-free. If you guys remember, Sonny Snowball was debt-free in 26 months. In other words, it took Sammy Snowbank an extra 9 months to pay off that final debt. How is that possible, right? What's going on here? Well, remember, we're building up the asset in the cash value, and there's a cost to buying that life insurance. So if Sammy Snowbank or any one of us listening can't handle 9 months of waiting, I guess we're going to have to go with Dave's snowball method, right? All right, so 26 months, 35 months, somewhere a gun is going off, right? We have a race. We want to see who can have the most cash value by retirement. They're both debt-free. Now, who's going to have more wealth at the end? All right, so by using Dave Ramsey's snowball method, Sonny Snowball would be debt-free in 26 months. So he could start saving $2,000 a month. And after saving in a cash savings account, following the third baby step of Dave Ramsey to save 3 to 6 months of expenses, Sonny Snowball is now 38 years old. So we are, to compare apples to apples, just going to put the same $2,000 a month into a bank on yourself policy and see what he can do. All right, so by age 70, Sonny Snowball has a whopping $1.5 million in cash value in his policy. Not bad. And Sonny Snowball could take $78,000 a year income tax free under current law, which is also pretty nice, right? But Sammy Snowbank has $1.7 million in his policy. What's the bottom line here? The bottom line is Sammy Snowbank started earlier building wealth, and as a result, he has an additional $200,000 in additional wealth just by paying his debts off with the SnowBank method. And that translates, by the way, into $91,000 in income in retirement. That's more than the $78,000 that Sonny Snowball would have. Sammy Snowbank would have an additional death benefit of $2.8 million, whereas Sonny Snowball would only have $2.6 million in death benefit. So that is the outcome. The bottom line, right, is an additional $200,000 of wealth with the same exact money, right? We're still using the same dollars, same cash flow. It's just a matter of building wealth first, simultaneously as we pay off our debts. It's all about how you pay the debt off that matters most. Any feedback? I know I've been talking a lot. I'm going to be not talking as much here in a minute, but anybody have any feedback, questions? Remember to write your questions in the chat if you have them for later when we open it up to questions. But Amanda, Brandon, would you guys add anything that you see on this sheet?
You did a great job of summarizing that, Mark.
Okay.
Hey, if I could ask a quick question, it may be obvious, but I just wanted to make sure, does that mean whatever you put towards the cash value policy is available immediately?
Amanda, take that one. Yeah, great question, Marlon. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, I would say a portion of it is available immediately as soon as that first check clears the bank. Because of the cost of the insurance, 100% is not going to be available, but a portion is right away.
Okay, unless the insurance amount. That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. So even in the first month, you would have cash value be less than your contribution proportionally due to the cost of insurance. But you've got that money growing for you month 1, year 1. Yeah. Okay, good. So to wrap up my presentation, then to pass the ball over to Amanda, I just want to make it clear, you don't want to just set up this policy with any insurance agent who comes along your path. These policies are really engineered like, I've been talking about them sort of like sports cars or bridges or, really nice buildings. I don't walk into a building that I'm not, totally convinced has been designed well, and I don't cross a bridge unless I'm certain that somebody certified it with an architect and an engineer. Brandon, Amanda, myself, we are all trained as Bank on Yourself authorized advisors that are specifically mentored, trained, and have to keep up with the education modules and requirements for all Bank on Yourself advisors. And so you can feel confident working with us that we will design this in particular for your numbers, your scenario. So don't just work with your guy down the street, because we have seen this policy wreck people's financial lives if it's not designed well. Taxable, grows too slow, all those things. So if you want to see what this looks like with your numbers, that's what Brandon and Amanda are here for. You can go to grandmaswealthwisdom.com/call. Is that the right URL, Amanda?
Yep.
grandmaswealthwisdom.com/call, and you can hop right on their calendars today. So if you like what you see, now's your, be sure to sign up with them so you can see how your numbers would be impacted, how much more wealth you would have, just like Sammy Snowbank. So with that in mind,
Adam has a question. I was going to let him jump on if he wants,
Adam,
or
please.
I can ask for him.
Yeah, Mark, I was curious and I think this is similar to the last question, but so you're paying into your policy and building up cash value. Do you pay off the debt in chunks, like as soon as you have enough in there, or what's the best process for paying those off?
I'll answer, but then I'd love to get other Brandon and Amanda too. It comes down to how much liquid cash do you want to sit on. So, I would like to see that when you borrow from your policy, you still had a little bit in there in case you, God forbid, if you got injured or lost your job or some other emergency 2 days after you pay off your credit card or your student loan. I had a lady one time, she was really interested in being debt free. So she was paying off her debts, and had nothing else. She was doing the snowball method. And then unfortunately, she paid off some debts with a windfall she received from a divorce. And then she lost her job and was disabled. And all of a sudden, she has all her money trapped, right? Because it's not like you're going to get a big mortgage when you don't have a job. And all of her debts were paid. And student loans companies are kind of funny in that they don't give you the money back if you ask them for it. All you get is a nice thank you letter, right? So great question, Adam. Amanda, Brandon, what do you guys say to that thoughtful question?
What I like to do is kind of look at whenever the wealth in the policy is growing up and the debts are going down. I'll start looking, and then I add that little extra cushion, and then that's when I make the change. Maybe it's $1,000 or $2,000 from one card, and then I'll start doing the policy loan back, and then I'll do it again for the next card or the next thing. That's how we did with our student debt when we had that. So
great stuff.
And Adam had an additional question. Do you want to ask that one, Adam?
Sure. What's the minimum age for a policyholder? You were saying it doesn't have to be on yourself, so I was wondering, how young of a kid can you take out a policy on?
Amanda, go for that one.
So our son had a policy on his life when he was 3 months old. I think you can do it right when they're born. We were able to finally get it when he was 3 months old, but he's not the owner of the policy, right? You have to be at least 18 years old to own a policy, but even as a juvenile, you can be the insured.
Great stuff. Good. Very good. Any other questions so far? We're good to go?
Does that answer your question there, Adam?
Yep, that's perfect. Thanks.
I think there may be even more questions and ideas that'll get sparked as we see some numbers in action. So Amanda, I'm going to pass the baton over to you. Let's see what we're talking about here. Let's put some, and actually, Brandon, you'll be the one, I suppose, to give Amanda the reins, I think, unless I can do it here. Yeah. Okay. I can stop sharing. So Amanda, give it a go. See if you can share your screen, and would love to see what you've got.
Yeah, so I'll let you know that Brandon and I started doing a version of the SnowBank method with Mark 6 years ago, just on concept alone. But I've found that having real numbers tied to our clients' real life has been a lot more eye-opening and effective. So that's part of how this calculator I'm about to show you evolved over time. So the real client names changed, a few of the details changed to protect her identity. So I'm calling her Carrie Detterson, and I'm going to go through this really quickly. The best way to really see this is, of course, to get your own.
Wait, Amanda, what's her name again?
Carrie Detterson.
All right, just let that sink in. I love the name. Okay, perfect. Okay. Carry on, Carrie Detterson.
Yep. So really smart. She's starting young, 23 years old, not a lot of expenses in life right now. She doesn't have a mortgage. She's just renting. So she's able to really get some movement going. But those payments that she has to pay toward her debt are really causing her to worry, and it's hard to enjoy life. Like, can I really have fun when I have this debt that I need to pay back? And she has this dream to own a home at some point. So she wants to be saving for that down payment. So currently, when we met, she was putting between $500 and $700 per month in just a normal savings account. And she had $20,000 in student debt, $20,000 in a car loan. And then I put those monthly payments there, $207 due on the student loan and $384 due every month on the car loan. And we asked this question: should she put that $700 per month toward her student loans directly? They're the higher interest, since both balances are the same, that's what she was thinking about doing. And then she kind of snowball her debt from there. Or should she use that $700 toward the SnowBank method and go that route? So this is the spreadsheet that I put together for her. First, I pulled the minimums on if she's just paying the minimum on those debts. Of course, with student loans, there's multiple debts that all go together to make that one student loan payment. So I just took the average interest rate, pulled what those numbers would look like, her car loan, and then the total. So she has $40,000 in debt. She'll pay about $6,000 in interest, and if she just pays the minimum. So keep that number in mind, $6,000 roughly that her interest payments will be if she's just paying the minimum. And then I used a snowball calculator to run the scenario as if she snowballs that debt, pays off the student loans, and then rolls that payment over into the car loan. And what I found, if she did that, she would save $4,000 in interest, and she'd pay off her debt 7 years more quickly compared with the minimum. That's super powerful. This is why the snowball method is so popular, right? To save $4,000 to get out of debt 7 years more quickly. Wow. That's super awesome. Kudos to people that do that. That's really great. But could there be an improvement on that, right? Was the kind of the next question to ask. So I did pull a quote for her on a Bank on Yourself policy, and I'm going to zoom in on this one real quick. Sorry, I meant to do that beforehand. So this just has the $700 per month, or $8,400 for the year going in. And then you'll notice the cash value is less than what she put in by the end of year 1. But by year 3, the end of year 3, she could pay off her debt. She's got $16,000 in cash value, and just paying the minimums, I highlighted it here, she would have $14,000 in debt in the student loans at that point. So I have her taking out a loan from the policy and paying off those student loans, and then slowly paying back that the loan from the policy as well. Well, you'll notice when she takes that loan that her cash value does go down. Her death benefit does go down while that loan's outstanding. But as she pays it back, you'll notice what happens here in year 7 is that her cash value and her death benefit are the exact same as if she never took out the loan. And I could have copied and pasted, right, the same numbers all the way down these two columns for the cash value and the death benefit with loans, but they're exactly the same from that point forward now that she's repaid the loan. That's really the power, is that growth in the policy is still there and still happening, even though she used the policy to pay off her loans. Mark, you've got something to add there.
Amanda, great stuff. So again, just to summarize, same money, right? Same outflow. Nobody asked her to, fork over extra money here. We're just using a different model, a different series of steps, really, a different recipe for being debt-free. And what you're showing us here is not only did she save in her policy, but she kept paying the minimums on her student loans. And then it was in year 3 that she had enough in the policy to take a loan to wipe out the student debt. And then she repays that debt to her policy. And by the time the loan is paid off, whether it took her 3 years or 7 years or 15 years, whenever that loan to the policy is paid off, you're showing us very clearly she has the exact same cash value in her policy, whether she had ever borrowed from the policy or not. In this case, in year 7, she has $50,000 in cash value. Whether she borrowed from the policy or not, that policy is going to have 50 grand. She can't stop that. Nothing she can do to stop that policy from growing. Is that a fair summary of everything so far?
Yep.
Looks
and then
great.
My favorite part of the spreadsheet, the start now or later comparison, where we take the SnowBank method and we put the snowball method, just like Sunny and Sammy that we were looking at earlier. We did this for Carrie. And on this side, she pays her minimums on the debts. She puts $700 in to bank on yourself. When the debts are paid off, she takes the minimum that she was paying toward those debts and starts a second policy. And then on this side, she waits till all the debts are paid in full, puts that same $1,291 toward the debts, and then only once those debts are paid does she start putting money into a bank on yourself policy. And the bottom line here, when we get to when she's 70 years old, ready to just use this money for lifetime income, just passive, having it come to her whenever she wants. When you add up the cash value of the policies, the two policies that she has with the SnowBank method, it's $1.9 million. If with the snowball method, there's $1.8 million in that policy, which is a total of $114,000 difference between the two. Sorry, I rounded there in some of my numbers. If people are listening, it was $1,916,000 and $1,801,000 on the other side. So that makes 114 without the rounding as much. So she still pays off her debt. She's better than debt free in 5 years rather than in 3 years. It does take 2 years longer. But that 2-year difference means $114,000 more for her when she's 70 years old, which I think is pretty powerful.
Tremendous. An additional $114,000 of extra wealth just by doing the SnowBank method. So do you want $114,000 extra dollars in retirement or not?
I would say yes, I want more money in retirement.
That's a good question to ask, right?
Yep.
Good. Amanda, fantastic. I think we'll leave it at this one case study for sake of time. We can do more if folks want to see more, but because we do have another case study, but just for sake of time, why don't you leave that up on the screen just in case, Amanda, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And then guys, that's our presentation. We wanted to leave plenty of time for Q&A. So now is your chance. If you want to bring questions up for Amanda or for myself or for Brandon, what's not clear? We've talked a lot, so no doubt there has to be questions in there somewhere. So this is a chance for you to bring questions to bear and see what Amanda would have to say about it.
Can I get that spreadsheet?
Yeah, you just set up an appointment with Brandon or me, and we'll get your data and put together that spreadsheet for you. Yep.
What do you mean? You want this
good point.
spreadsheet on you or this spreadsheet on the debtor lady?
Well, I don't really care about Miss Debtor. I just like Excel spreadsheets, and I would love to play with that.
Awesome. Amanda, the reason why you're saying a meeting would be required is because this spreadsheet doesn't have formulas in it necessarily. This is an illustration software that came from an insurance company that, so like, for example, if you click on any number in that spreadsheet, it's just copied and pasted from the formula from the software of the insurance company. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Unfortunately, we don't have a way to, you can see the spreadsheet. We can't necessarily adjust it to your numbers. I wish we could. Literally, Adam, if you find a way to design some software that allows us to do this live, I think we'd all be better than debt free. We could sell it and make $1 bajillion. But no, the simplest and best way, Adam, would be to connect with Amanda and or Brandon, and they can run these figures for you. Use it because they have a contract with the insurance companies and have access to that software. Is that a fair way to answer that question, Amanda?
Yeah, and particularly also, we work with multiple different companies. We structure the policies differently depending on your unique factors that we want to make sure. So you could, like, these minimums, right? They come from a calculator online, right? The snowball method comes from a calculator I found online. But to really find the power of bank on yourself, there's you want to make sure it's structured properly. You want to use the life insurance company software, that kind of thing. So that is why you need to talk with us to do that part of it.
And you designed these with cash value in mind, using the paid up additions writer and several other important writers to design the numbers that we're seeing right now. Is that right, Amanda?
Correct. Yep.
Smart question, Adam.
Another question I have is, on what type of debts should we not use the SnowBank method on?
That's
Amanda,
a great one.
Go for it, Amanda. What do you think?
Yeah, so I had one client that before had a loan that was compounding interest daily, kind of that more like Sharky kind of loan from a payday lender or something along those lines. And for that client, it was the right thing for them to get that debt paid off first before starting a bank on yourself policy. I understand that's not true for everybody. Mark might have some examples where that would not work. But for that client, that was the right way for them to go.
Yeah.
Mark, do you have other examples?
High interest debt. If you've got a large credit card balance for 30% interest, you may just want to do a combination of Snowball and SnowBank. Just, it comes down to the numbers, right? So you can run this exact spreadsheet with Amanda or Brandon or myself and just have a conversation, and the math holds true, right? But yeah, high interest debt, you may want to just nail that one to the wall or just wipe that one out with a snow avalanche or some other snow metaphor here. But then you can go after the strategy once that high interest debt is paid off.
What I've also found is some people, and this is the people put in a 401k or other things that they're saving for retirement, and even maybe they have money saved and they're maybe taking that penalty, maybe worth it to build your wealth, right? And so, like, we kind of look at that as well as saying, hey, what other money do you have? Because you could be building this whole retirement vehicle through your 401ks, but then being in crazy amount of debts at 30%, and you have to ask yourself, who's winning here? And just because you got 8% rate of return, whatever that means, on your 401k, and your debt is at 30% or 25%, just do the math. Anyway, those are, again, things that kind of try and think about. It's all one wallet, and that's what we want to look at.
It's a good way to put it, Brandon. It is all one wallet. If you're earning 3% or 7% in your 401k, but you're losing 15% on your credit cards or whatever, that's a net negative. The river is flowing the wrong direction, as we say here in Chicago. So final chance to ask any questions or feedback. What do you like? What do you not like?
Yeah, I'd love to know what they like and not like. That would be really helpful just to know, like, because we as doing the Snowbank method are going upstream ourselves in this kind of way. So to serve more, we want to help people break free, be freedom in their finances, and yeah, what do you like and not like?
I think this was really helpful. The real world examples help solidify and make it understandable.
Thanks, Adam.
I think that was Marlon, I believe.
Oh, whoever that was.
Oh, I think that was Adam. Yeah. Very good.
I don't know.
All right. Well, guys, we will wrap up as promised at the top of the hour here. Thank you to Amanda for putting all this together, all these numbers. Thank you. And thank you, Brandon, for helping lead the conversation and bring the questions to the front. Again, what's the best website they can go to, Amanda, if they want to reach out and see it in action with their own numbers?
Yeah, grandmaswealthwisdom.com, and you can put the /call in there, or if you just go straight there, you'll see a request a meeting in the top right-hand corner where you can schedule a time with us. Again, that's grandmaswealthwisdom.com.
And that's the same name as your podcast. If you guys like Not Your Average Financial Podcast, be sure to check out Grandma's Wealth Wisdom wherever you get fine podcasts these days. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of our show. We really love it. And we always, as always, we wrap up our episodes by saying thank you for joining us for another episode of Not Your Average Financial Podcast, helping you think different about your money, your economy, and your future.